What will you be looking for, Beth?
Great to see you, Ed. There's many reports tonight, and when I think of Qualcomm, very briefly, what I would say is being hung up in that mobile market. This is not the biggest growth market for AI right now. You can see that evidence many places, whether it's Apple, Qualcomm, pick anywhere really in the mobile stack. For me, Qualcomm is more of an automotive story. I would look more closely at Qualcomm toward the second half of this decade. So year 2028, year 2029, year 2030, especially as AI moves more toward the edge. And when you see AI move more towards the edge, Qualcomm would become more interesting at that time.
More interesting in the longer term. In the near term, talk to me about the valuation of ARM, because it has basically risen above where most analysts think it should be currently priced at.
Yeah, that's a great point. The one thing about ARM is this valuation, for me, is not justified. The royalty rates, they've doubled with V9, the architecture V9. But ultimately, why would I pay more on the sales valuation for ARM than I would NVIDIA, Broadcom, these massive design companies that are taking market share versus a royalty rate somewhere in the 4% range? To me, it just makes much more sense to participate directly. And we've already seen that during the mobile era. Would you have rather owned ARM? It was a private company, but would you have rather owned ARM or Apple? Apple, of course. And I think something very similar is going on with AI.
Okay, let's talk about the here and now in what's happening in AI and what we're about to hear after the bell as well, because I know you have a very keen focus on the Meta and the Microsoft story as well. Look, are these companies going to vindicate the amount that they are currently spending on their underlying infrastructure?
When I look at these companies, I think Microsoft is the one putting forward, putting its best foot forward. This company, the last time it gave us a number, it was $13 billion on Azure with a 175% growth rate. Sometime in 2026, I wouldn't be surprised if Azure reaches $40 billion contribution from AI. That is a massive number. And then keep in mind, it's not just the size of that number for Microsoft, it's the rapid ascent in reaching that number. And that piece, I think, really does separate Microsoft as the enterprise AI juggernaut.
Beth, I really appreciate that explanation, because what Microsoft does, right, it says here is a percentage point growth figure for Azure, and here is a points contribution specifically from AI. It's a different way of communicating than, say, Alphabet does or Meta does. But is it enough for an investor like you to say, I understand where all this investment has gone, what's coming out the other side?
When we are talking about $40 billion potentially in 2026, I would say yes, we are reaching a scale that is very meaningful, reached it very quickly. And again, it is that contrast that you pointed out, Ed, which is that many of the peers are not discussing specifics in terms of dollar or growth rate from AI. And it is that contrast where Microsoft stands apart.
I'm going to ask you something which might be a little unfair. But if we put Meta and Microsoft as direct competitors in an AI race, and let's just throw OpenAI in there as well, and Anthropic, how would you rank them? Meta has been putting out a lot, even this morning, about their vision for superintelligence. But where would you rank the competencies and leadership in the marketplace?
On the public markets, I have to go with Microsoft because of the real revenue that is there. Meta is my number two out of those bigger tech companies. So Amazon, Alphabet, they would rank much lower. I don't like Meta's valuation. This valuation is at a historic high. Meta has participated in very explosive trends such as mobile and social media. I can't justify Meta's valuation either right now. Meta lower, though, is easily my number two, second to Microsoft.
And then let's look a little further afield, if we may. So Microsoft and Meta tonight, Apple and Amazon tomorrow. Which of the evenings are you most excited about?
I will be bold and say I'm not interested in Apple or Amazon at this time as an AI investor. I want to see more from these companies. AWS needs to get up off the floor a little bit here and start to accelerate. Apple, similar to Qualcomm, they are the smartphone market. They are the edge AI. There will be a moment when that will lead. It's not right now.